obviously we can't condone this kind of thing. And I think that, Ms. Tweeden must have taken a tremendous courage to make that statement. I'm saddened by it, but, we now live in a time, thankfully, that women can feel safe to come forward and talk about what happened. It's painful when it's a dear friend, somebody you admire, somebody who's been great to you, and Al has been all those things to me. I admire him tremendously, but that doesn't mean that that kind of thing is okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Graham Ledger, and welcome to the Daily Ledger. Our cover story, the Al Frankenstein monster molester distraction from the work of the people. Clearly, Congress has a problem. Obviously, Al Franken and his inappropriate sexual advances and salacious follies are only the tip of an embarrassing and despicable iceberg. It's absolutely shameful that the nation's attention has been diverted from what these temporary politicians were sent to Washington, D.C. to do. Work for us. We're not paying their large salaries to sleaze around town. Now, that brings us to the Republican tax reform problem. And it is a problem because both the House plan and the Senate proposal, as they stand right now, will increase taxes on tens of millions of Americans. That's not good. However, at least some Americans will get tax relief. But if it were up to the Democrats, of course, their version of tax reform would simply be more redistribution of wealth.
I just think it would be nice just tonight, before we go home, to just acknowledge, well, this tax cut really is not for the middle class, it's for the rich. And that whole thing about higher wages, well, it's a good selling point. But we know companies don't just give away higher wages. They just don't give away higher wages just because they have more money. Corporations are sitting on a lot of money now. They're sitting on a lot of profits now. I don't see wages going up. So just spare us the bank shots, spare us the sarcasm and the satire, and let's move.
I'm going to spare it, but I'm going to just say to you that I come from the poor people, and I've been here working my whole stinking career for people who don't have a chance. And I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public
wait a minute.
believes it.
I'm not through.
Okay.
I get kind of sick and tired of it. True, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
it's not true.
With all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in
order,
this country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular
richer
order.
and richer.
Order.
We do a tax cut
Regular order.
middle class
Wait a minute.
Regular order.
and over and over again.
just
How
a
many
second.
times do we do this before we learn this?
Listen, I've honored you by allowing you to spout off here. And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me.
The GOP tax scam is a perfect reflection of the priorities of the Republican Congress, racing to raise taxes on 36 million class families. That is according to the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. And the bill is only growing more monstrous in the Senate. The Republicans in the House are saying, well, I'm just voting for it. I know it doesn't have all good things, but it's just to move the process along. This will be corrected in the Senate. Oh, really? Republicans want you to believe that their trickle-down tax breaks for the rich will pay for themselves. Never have. They say they're going to create jobs and pay for themselves. Neither is true. They never have. As Bruce Bartlett, architect of Jack Kemp's supply-side economics, said, in terms of tax breaks paying for themselves, it's not true. It's nonsense. It's BS.
Many millions of middle-class families would wind up paying higher taxes at the end of the day. 13 million in 2019, 20 million in 2027 under the Senate plan. Now, that's the wrong approach for our economy. It betrays the American worker and the American family who deserve tax relief, because it concentrates more of our country's wealth at the very top, just what the American people don't want.
So, Democrat static aside, the Republican tax plan will lower some people's taxes, not everybody's, maybe most. It's really hard to tell, too early to tell. And that is going to be the political fallout. The Democrats are going to have a field day with the GOP tax plan because They're tinkering with deductions like state and local taxes, property taxes, home mortgage deduction. It's going to be the Democrats' election mantra in 2018, and it's just the thing to remove Al Franken and Bob Menendez and all the other Democrat ills from the headlines. It's going to happen. Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., spokeswoman for Americans for Limited Government, Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie, I want to talk about the taxes, how I think it's a real problem for the Republicans, even though I think Americans, some will get the tax breaks, tax cuts. I want to talk about Al Franken and this huge distraction that's just engulfing Capitol Hill right now. But first, Bob Menendez and this mistrial, it's just humorous to me how the mainstream media largely ignored it. We reported what was going on there from beginning to end, and this end is now a mistrial. But it's amazing to me how the mainstream media largely ignored it until suddenly there's a mistrial like this guy is innocent. Now Mitch McConnell's talking about some sort of ethics inquiry. Shouldn't the ethics inquiry have taken place before the trial? I hope and pray that the DOJ will not let this guy off the hook and retry this and probably move it out of New Jersey.
Oh, absolutely. This is disgusting what's going on up on the Hill. You know, they were really quick to throw everybody else under the bus when there's a problem, but they don't call out their own, particularly these Democrats who have not spoken out against the accusations against Senator Menendez. Why wasn't he asked to step out? Why wasn't he asked to step aside? I mean, there's serious allegations here. Now, granted, I believe in a system of innocent till proven guilty, but Democrats don't follow by that same standard. Meanwhile, they're throwing every Republican under the bus, as we have been discussing, you know, such as more. I want to have one discussion that most people don't understand. On the Hill, there was $15 million paid out to sitting congressional members for sexual harassment. And we don't know who these people are. So let's out them and oust them. Let's hold a standard across the board instead of cherry picking who's going to be upholding these sexual harassment charges and who's not.
And to that, this slush fund you're talking about, the $15 million, where's Mitch McConnell? Where is Paul Ryan? They obviously know about this. They have their tacit approval on this. This needs to end. Taxpayer dollars going to these payouts absolutely needs to end. So we move from the corruption trial of Menendez to the morally corrupt person. And we all knew that Al Franken has a loose screw, right? So now we have these revelations about Al Franken and the mainstream media, again, it's amazing to me, running cover for this guy. Roll tape.
This is just kind of scratching the surface here. He was not a member of Congress at the time this occurred. He was just a comedian.
Right.
We'll see if her coming out gives other women sort of, you know, more purpose and allows them to talk about people who are currently in positions of power who could affect them. Franken has no effect on her at this particular time in her life.
No effect on her. It's amazing. Imagine if this was a Republican senator, what that person would be saying. It's unbelievable. And then, of course, the mainstream media quickly pivots to Judge Roy Moore and try and loop it into this and turn it into all about Judge Roy Moore. This is about Al Franken, whether he was a United States senator at the time or not. That's still Al Franken.
Absolutely. And the thing is also with Senator Menendez, there were also charges of underage, having sex with underage girls in the Dominican Republic. So let's look at this morality issue. It seems to only apply to Republicans. When you're talking about Al Franken, now they're justifying bad behavior from before. And you mentioned Ryan and McConnell. Well, guess what Ryan tried to do? Throw a lifeline out there and say, we're going to mandate sexual harassment training to all congressional members. Really? What has happened for the last 30 or 40 years? Because I tell you, when I was on active duty in the United States Marine Corps, we've had this since the late 80s. This is something that the rest of the American people have to have, particularly those who are getting taxpayer dollars. Why has Congress not ever had this training? Why is it that they have just been able to run free will because they are supposedly above the law, obviously, well, and they're not held accountable to the same standards?
And now the fox is guarding the hen house in this situation. And we can add
it literally is
Al Franken to the long list of Democrat molesters in the public eye. A lot of them are politicians or were politicians. You know, top of the list is Harvey Weinstein, of course. He's a liberal. Al Franken, Kevin Spacey, Anthony Weiner. Who could forget him?
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton is the, yes, of course, he's the molester in chief. And Elliot Spitzer, remember him? And then, of course, as you mentioned, Bob Menendez. But, you know, there's one name missing from that list that we've come up with, and I'm remiss because he's not on there, and that's the lion of the Senate. That would be Ted Kennedy, who had a litany of this problem for decades and was covered up by his colleagues in the United States Senate. And again, I loop back to Mitch McConnell. Why is McConnell allowing this to transpire?
You know, it's weakness in leadership, and I'm growing to believe that there's no longer a Republican Party or a Democratic Party. I believe that there's one party, and they are all in collusion together. That's why we have so many problems with resistance towards the president within our own party. People that are marrying up with the Democrats, Democrats marrying up with Republicans, because we had Republican senators go and testify on behalf of Senator Mendez. What's going on here? Yeah. There is no clear ethical boundaries anymore. They cross over, they're incestuous, they're interloping amongst each other.
Okay, I want to go to taxes now, and I think that this is a real problem potentially. I could be wrong, but I think it could be a real problem for the Republicans going into the election year of 2018. It's not simplification. That's number one. You know, this notion that you can fill out your taxes on a postcard, come on. And simplification would include fewer brackets, not more. If you look at the Senate's version, there's 8 tax brackets. And of course, they always exclude the 0 tax bracket, but that's a crucial one. More on that in a second. But then, of course, the state and local taxes, they're tinkering with that, capping the deductions. The Senate version would eliminate all of them. Property taxes, we don't know where those are going. 47%, Jesse, 47%. Of people in this country who file taxes pay nothing, pay 0, and it's going to go up under this plan. This is a crime, an absolute crime, that the Republicans are pandering to these people.
Exactly. You know, when 47% of the people in this country don't pay anything in taxes, you're talking about no skin in the game. Right. So, of course, they want more government involved in their life because they're the ones that are sucking out everything out of the rest of us. Some people donate blood, other people take blood, and that's what this is boiled down to. I will say the one thing that Republicans are united on is getting rid of the individual mandate of Obamacare. That's the only thing they figured out right. Outside of that, they're making it more complicated, they're making it more difficult, and I'm disappointed because we have failed on everything. We haven't gotten Obamacare repealed. We haven't figured out tax reform. We're struggling with the wall. I mean, is there anything that they can unite with this president for? Because watch, we're going to lose the House and Senate, and the conservatives will, in 2018. Because
I think so.
They're not conservatives.
I think there's a good chance.
They're not conservatives. The establishment is ripe in this town, and God bless Donald Trump for calling it out, but we got to get behind this president and push him, too, to hold them accountable.
The sea level in the swamp might be a little lower now, but the swamp is clearly still there. And I think the Republicans are making a tactical mistake here with the taxes by tinkering with the deductions. Because I can just see it right now. Nancy Pelosi coming out saying, hey, they took away your deductions, and in 2018, they're going to run on, we're going to bring them back. It's a huge tactical mistake. Jesse, thank you.